Tavien St. Clair continues to make waves, pushing Sayin and Kienholz in Ohio State's QB competition.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we'll discuss some growth the D tackles have made during spring practice, as well as one thing that pops off the screen while watching Mylan Graham play. But first, Tavien St. Clair has been ruled out of the QB battle by a lot of people. But the true freshman quarterback from the great state of Ohio is showing everybody that he's making the right strides. He continues to make waves, and he's pushing Sayin and Kienholz every single day. While Sayin may have thought that it was just going to be him and Kienholz in this battle, no, it's a three-man race, and the true freshman quarterback is making a lot of good throws every single day, maturing every single day to push the older quarterbacks in this battle. And if I'm Sayin or Kienholz, I'm thinking to myself, I better watch out because this true freshman has what it takes to jump up the depth chart during the offseason. And it's very similar to what we saw a year ago. Sayin came into Ohio State, was originally at Alabama. He ended up leaving, going into the portal, and Ohio State was fortunate to pick him up. Now, when he got to Ohio State, you all know about the stars next to his name and the hype surrounding his name, but that doesn't mean it's going to follow him into college football to wherever he plays at the next level. But it did. The hype was right there. People remember the stars next to his name. But Sayin from day one showed everybody and his mama that he has what it takes to move up the depth chart. You saw it a year ago. He jumped, Kienholz actually. He jumped Kienholz in the depth chart a year ago. So it's not just the talent, which is why Sayin's the favorite by many to be Ohio State's QB1 this year. He was there last year based on the way that he played a year ago in practice. The same thing goes with Tavien St. Clair. We haven't touched on the young man a lot, but we need to start talking more about him because he is the future quarterback of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Is the future going to be now? It's possible. But I think next year and definitely the year after, you're going to look at Tavien St. Clair and say, this young man has a real opportunity to start at Ohio State. His stature, 6'4", 225. His physical makeup is one that's very unique for an 18-year-old young man. During the scrimmage over the weekend, he made some throws that got my eyes big, and you just saw the growth and even some of the maturity about being able to process the football in the ways that he did that. Some guys played college football for 4 or 5 years, and they're not able to do what he did. He had a throw to Desi Jones. It was an RPO that he made the correct read on, rolled to the left, threw it to Desi Jones on a crossing route, and it was the right read on the RPO. It was the right timing on the throw, and it was a ball that allowed Desi Jones to get some yak. That's great. If I'm Tavien St. Clair, these moments are the ones that I have to seize. No, he was not running with the ones, and there's nothing wrong with that. We know the two older guys are the favorite and sometimes the underdog in this battle. They're going to get a lot of the reps with the ones. Cool. That's great. But for St. Clair, he has to take advantage of every single rep, every throw, every second in a meeting room, every conversation with the coach. He has to take advantage of all of that. Just soak it all up like a sponge. You know that sponge that you have by your sink, or maybe some of you may have a rag there, whatever the case may be. You have something in your kitchen that you use to wipe stuff down. Maybe it's a wet rag, or maybe you wet something down to wipe the counter. And you know, once that thing starts to get wet, it continues to soak in. And next thing you know, if you have your rag under the faucet for too long, you're like, man, this thing is way wetter than I wanted it to be. You got to kind of dry it out a little bit and squeeze it to get some of the water out. But that thing soaks it up very, very easily. And that's exactly what St. Clair needs to do. You're at a new place. You're at a new school, on a new field, with new coaches, with new teammates. There's a lot of stuff new. It would be very, very easy for the young man to get homesick and to not want to listen to everybody and to get his head about stuff and realize, man, I'm coming in. I'm talented. People been hyping me up all offseason, but man, I got these two other guys in front of me, man. It's an uphill battle, and I don't want to climb that thing. He's not doing that. He is showing up every single day, and you're seeing that growth. While it was a scrimmage during spring practice, that's still a moment for him to show up and to show out. He also had a completion to Phillip Bell. Now, this one was a 5-step drop. It wasn't an RPO. He had to step up into the pocket to elude a tackler. I forget the D tackle's name, but he beat the right guard. I was right in front of him. St. Clair slid up a little bit. Then he slid to his right to elude another tackler, and then threw a ball to Phillip Bell that was on a rope, a dart right over the middle. Now, Phillip Bell also, another young man we could highlight. Phillip Bell caught the ball. The defense was running a zone. He sat down, found the soft spot in the zone, caught that ball, and I'm thinking, both of these young guys are doing great things. St. Clair's pushing the older guys and pushing them to make some bigger plays and to figure out how to move around in the pocket, where Ryan Day really hasn't had these young guys, young quarterbacks, go up against a live rush very much, trying to preserve their bodies to keep them upright as much as possible. One thing Ryan Day did on Saturday, which I think is great, is allow these young guys to feel some pressure. How do you move around in the pocket? What is your pocket presence like? That is huge. And for St. Clair to handle it in the RPO on the first throw, and then for this throw as well, for him to handle it like a guy that didn't just get on campus, that's a way for him to build confidence and to push those older quarterbacks. Sayin and Kienholz are very, very talented. There are reasons why those guys are the front runners to win that title QB1. And while I am not the biggest fan of starting a true freshman at quarterback, really a true freshman at any position, but when you got some guys like an Edric Houston and a Jeremiah Smith that are abnormal in the way they play the football, and so you just do that. Quarterback's a different animal than being a starting receiver or starting D tackle. But I do think St. Clair has the goods for down the road to be QB1. And let's just say he makes a stride during the offseason, he sheds his black stripe, and the next thing you know, he is the backup quarterback, or making that QB1 race a whole lot closer than you thought it was going to be. Nothing wrong with that. Push everybody in that room. So Ryan Day and the other coaches are compelled to wait until the very last minute to hand over the title to QB1. Because as Ryan Day says, it doesn't get much better than being the starting quarterback at Ohio State. That's why Tavien St. Clair committed to be a Buckeye. And that's exactly what he's doing right now while getting better every single day. Sayin and Kienholz are talented. St. Clair is talented as well. You got three talented quarterbacks in the room. All three are inexperienced quarterbacks, which makes this quarterback competition very, very interesting. I have loved what I've seen for Tavien St. Clair. Absolutely loved it. He knows how to use his frame. He knows how to move around in the pocket. He has a big arm. He can make all the throws. There's a lot to like about him. The one knock on St. Clair is his inexperience. But sometimes that inexperience allows you to play freer on the football field. You might make some better plays because you're not overthinking while you're out there when the ball's in your hand. While the ball's in St. Clair's hand, he might throw that thing to Mylan Graham. And when Graham has that ball in his hand, it's very clear that young man has what it takes to be a dog in a Buckeye uniform. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price? That used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer, and with their all-in pricing, you can see the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. One thing Game Time specializes in is last-minute deals, which helps you save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater events near you. You can grab last-minute seats for Ohio State games and save big with their zone deals. Also, Game Time provides a peace of mind with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. Their lowest price guarantee means I never worry about overpaying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. The more I watch Tavien St. Clair play the football, it makes me more excited about what he's going to do in the Buckeye uniform. And maybe internally, I am pushing him to get on the field sooner rather than later. Well, that same thing happens with Mylan Graham, a receiver that was on the Buckeyes team a year ago who was dealing with an injury during his senior year of high school, came to Ohio State, didn't really get on the field as much as some thought he should have in a backup role. But right now, it's going to be hard for Brian Hartline to keep that talented receiver off the football field because his play jumps off the field very, very easily. And every time he's out there, you're going to be saying, wow, did he just do that? How did he catch that ball? Man, that boy fast. That's Mylan Graham. And Mylan Graham is very athletic. One of those guys that when you maybe saw some things or heard some things from the Student Appreciation Day, you're sitting up here thinking, I know about Jeremiah Smith and Tate and Ennis, but it's possible for Mylan Graham to even jump Bryson Rogers on the depth chart. Mylan Graham is probably going to play outside receiver, could also play inside with some of the shiftiness and his ability to find the right spots on the field and be a very quick athlete. He also has the speed to run past guys. And he caught a ball. I'm trying to remember who threw this pass to him. I believe it was Julian Sayin threw the ball to Mylan Graham. I actually did a couple of them to him during the scrimmage on Saturday. Both of them are actually over the middle, too. Going from left to right. Both of them had the same little pattern. One was a shallow route. One of them was more of an inward breaking route. But both of them, the shallow route, he caught that thing, and you could tell, man, turns upfield quickly. Knows how to catch that ball and immediately turn to get upfield. Now, the one over the middle, woo-wee! Let me just tell you, that man caught that ball and kept on going. And then when he put his foot on the ground to go, you could see that burst and the explosion and the type of movements that would easily get him to go past the defender right in front of him. And Ohio State with the three older receivers there, not just the older receivers or the three guys that are going to start. Even put Bryson Rogers in that conversation too. Mylan Graham might possess something a little bit different than the others as far as the speed he has out there. Now, Brandon Ennis is fast. I mean, fast. Mylan Graham might be faster. Brandon Ennis is athletic. Mylan Graham might be more athletic. Both of them have a catch radius. Both of them are able to block very, very well. But that might be the one area where Ennis has the upper hand on Mylan Graham is the ability to block as a receiver. But with Graham getting reps with the ones during the scrimmage, that just gives me the belief and kind of the internal thought that he is already showing he can block in practice right now, because I don't believe for 1 second that Brian Hartline will put a receiver out there with the ones even during the 9th or 10th practice or 11th practice during the spring to go out there and just practice with the ones if he can't block. You have to earn these reps every single day. And it ain't going to be something just handed to you. Why did Jeremiah Smith start a year ago? Because he earned the right to start. Don't rely on somebody's high school rankings, or don't look at what some national recruiting analyst says about them in an article. Don't lean on that. Lean on what your eyeballs tell you when you watch the young man play. And that's one of my favorite things about Ohio State fans, is that Ohio State fans have a great eye for talent, and that Ohio State fans know what to do when they see one. Now, some Ohio State fans, I'm not going to put everybody in every category, some Ohio State fans are going to lean on those recruiting rankings like crazy and say, based off this, you should be a dog. Well, what is this thought I haven't really shared here recently? Never dares that have been there for a while. Y'all know what the boy is about to say. And if you don't, you'll get it when I say it. But the stars next to a player's name mean absolutely nothing once they get on the field. Nothing at all. Zach Harrison was a guy that was criticized a lot during his Buckeye career because he didn't live up to the 5-star billing when he came out of high school. Is that his fault? No. Was it the coach's fault that he didn't live up to the hype? No. Maybe the hype just wasn't correct. Maybe the things that were being said about him because he was such a highly sought after recruit were things based off high school film. People weren't truly projecting him to be the right kind of player at the next level. Zach Harrison left Ohio State and was a good Buckeye, a solid player. But some people are still going to sit up here and say, man, he wasn't the kind of pass rusher we thought he was going to be. Okay, maybe you have to adjust your evaluation, your projection based off what you see from them, from that player once they're playing at the next level. Great. Also, you don't know if your projection is correct until after homie gets to play a year or two or three at the next level. Same thing goes to the NFL draft. NFL draft's coming up here in a couple weeks, and you're going to see a lot more people over the next couple weeks make some hot takes, man. This dude's going to be a 10-time Pro Bowler, or this guy is going to be a second-round pick, but he's going to be a 8 to 10-year starter, or this guy's going to be a career backup, going to play for 5 or 6 teams. Cool. All those things are great. But you don't know if your projection is correct right now because they haven't played at the next level. Wait until they have 3 or 4 or 5 years under the belt before trying to make sure to see if your projection was correct. That's great. Now, you don't get a lot of guys don't play 5 years of college football. A lot of them do, but some guys don't. So in the NFL, you could evaluate differently. But you can't say if somebody, even with the NFL draft, many people are going to look at a Browns draft in a few weeks and say the Browns had an A draft, a B draft, or a C draft. Based off of what? I would love for somebody to tell me, oh, based off of where they drafted, the value of that pick, and so on and so forth. Who puts the value on that pick? Well, so-and-so on TV or somebody on the... Okay, they tell you the value of the pick. Okay, that's cool. But how do you know if that guy's going to pan out at the next level? Well, because they told me he's going to. Have they seen him play at the next level? No, no. You figure this stuff out with your projection. You will know if your projection is correct based off the way that player plays at the next level. And while Mylan Graham is hyped up, like some Browns fans will be hyped up, or Browns draft picks will be hyped up, or NFL draft picks will be hyped up, people are going to be hyped up or torn down over the next 2 weeks of the NFL. Mylan Graham's going to continue to gain hype and gain high praise over the next few weeks and months because he's really good. But no one knows exactly the type of player he's going to be yet until he consistently plays on the football field. And then we can evaluate the projections and say, well, you got it right here or you got it wrong there. I have a good feeling that Mylan Graham is going to be a good Buckeye. I'm not going to say he's going to be an All-American. I'm not going to say he might be an All-Big Ten player. But even then, that's a massive projection. And that's not one that I'm used to making. And I don't really think that's one without seeing them. You can make that kind of stuff up. But a lot of people just need to pump the brakes on that stuff because you're trying to make stuff to throw a dart out there and hope that it sticks. You don't have to do that. Make projections based off data. Projection I got from Mylan Graham, I'll make one for you, is that he will start in the Buckeye uniform. Not this year, but in the future. But this year, he's going to play. When that man's out on the field, you're going to tell he's out there, and you're going to be saying, woo-wee, Brian Hartline got to find a way to get the young man on the field a whole lot more. Because the burst, his speed, his quickness, and his athleticism are going to make him a massive threat for him when he's out there on the football field. Speaking of him being out there on the football field, there's some defensive linemen at Ohio State that have been taking some major strides during the spring, and Matt Patricia is taking notice. Thank you all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes. I'm making this show your first listen of the day. One thing we're not doing today is reacting to the national championship game last night because your boy is recording this show before the game tips off. While we may do a basketball show, we probably will do a basketball show talking about some things you learned from that game. I can't even share my prediction about the game because, well, the game hadn't been tipped off, and I don't want to be on the wrong side of history, at least not right now. I do want to talk about the defensive tackles, though, because the defensive tackles at Ohio State that's a unit that doesn't have the experience at all. I mean, you look up and down the board at positions where There are multiple guys starting at that position: cornerback, receiver, offensive guard, offensive tackle, things of that nature. Defensive tackle is one of those spots similar to offensive tackle for Ohio State, where both guys that were the starters in that role last year are going to get drafted into the NFL. I do think Josh Fryer is probably, can't keep letting to say this, has a chance to be a 7th-round pick. Now, I was thinking more undrafted free agent. That's probably where I think he's going to land. But it wouldn't shock me he's going to get drafted. The D tackles at Ohio State from a year ago are going to get drafted. Tyler Williams, at worst, a 2nd-round pick. Ty Hamilton, probably a 5th-round pick. I'm going to stop there for him. Fryer had a chance to get drafted. Simmons might be a 1st-round pick. And that leaves a massive hole for both of those spots, but specifically the defensive tackle spot. And Matt Patricia has been watching the unit and trying to analyze the different things that are going on with that side of the ball. And he made a comment about how the technique of the defensive lineman has gotten better. So you can say specifically D tackles, but D linemen as overall, the pad level has gotten better. And he left us with this quote that I love, quote, "Our pad level has gotten better. We've made strides there. Hand placement, pad level," end quote. And the fact that he mentioned pad level twice while putting hand placement right there in the middle, that helps me understand that these defensive linemen, but even focusing on the interior, they are getting off to a great start off the snap of the ball. If you're a defensive lineman or if you played D-line previously, you understand that the first 2 to 3 steps are vital to you either winning the rep or getting beat every single time. Now, if you have a false step or if your hand placement's wrong or your pad level's too high, you can counter and overcome that, but it's going to be some work. And for a guy like Cade McDonald and Edric Houston and Tyrone Malone and Jason Moore and Will Smith Jr. and all these other guys that are trying to play consistently at D tackle for Ohio State, their pad level needs to be correct. Their hand placement needs to be correct. And these are both things that Larry Johnson preaches every single day. Pad level, hand placement, pad level, hand placement. You've seen drills. You've seen where there have been clips of various coaches during drills, and they will stop that thing. I am not going to whistle into the microphone. I don't want to hurt your ears. But they'll whistle into the microphone, and then they'll whistle in general, not into a mic, but they'll whistle, and they will say, "No, get back," and they'll quick, fast, and in a hurry, discuss what went wrong, discuss how to fix it, but keep that pace up. And you go again. But what are you going to find? Pad level is so important that sometimes during a game, you don't even notice a player that has a pad level too high or a pad level too low. Not the snap of the ball, but you might start to think, man, that dude's winning every single rep. What is he doing well? Where his hand placement's correct. He's got a pop to him when he hits the opponent's shoulder pads. He's the low man every time, and low man wins. Also, Matt Patricia also didn't just talk about the ability for these young men to get their pad level low. He also talked about Caleb Downs, who is still practicing on a limited basis due to a nagging injury. But Patricia had this to say about the talented safety, quote, "Outstanding presence on the field. Really good football player, obviously, but that would be the thing I would say," end quote. And the fact you're talking about an outstanding presence for a guy who isn't really playing that much, that's not just talking, to me, that's why I'm trying to think outside the box. That's not just talking about what he's doing on the field between the lines, but also on the field while on the sideline. Because Downs has been a coach. No, he's not getting paid like a coach. Not from the school, at least. His NIL may be up to being one of an assistant coach or a coordinator salary. I don't know that to be exact, but it's possible. But Caleb Downs has always been known, even in high school, as being a coach on the field. Now, he's in a different role now because he's hurt. He's been a 2-year starter in college football. He was the freshman of the year in the SEC in 2023. So he has a lot of accolades. He's a national champion. He has a lot of wear and tear. He has a lot of experience that a lot of these guys don't. Especially when you're looking at a couple guys in Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford who are battling right now to be the running mate of Caleb Downs. He's helping these dudes every single day. Now, you're not trying to help one guy or the other. Maybe he is. But the best thing for him is to help both. Because that's what helped Ohio State had the best defense. Just help both. Because we all know in football, you never know when an injury might happen. Lathan Ransom suffered multiple injuries that knocked him out for the year. Think about other players. Denzel Burke missed time. Think about other players. Cody Simon missed time. Still, go back a little bit. Still Chambers missed time. Tommy Eichenberg missed time. I mean, there are players at Ohio State this past year. Simmons went down. Mahalski went down. McLaughlin went down. Judkins had a little injury. Players go down, man. And if you have a next man up mentality, but the guy who's the next man up isn't mentally prepared or physically prepared for battle, you're going to take a massive step back. So it's great for Caleb Downs to be a great player and have his presence felt on the field between the lines, but also off the field, on the sidelines, but also still on the field. You know what I'm trying to say? His presence is still felt there as well. Back to the pad level thing, because I know there's a lot of times throughout the off season and even in the season, we talk a lot about linemen on here, primarily offensive linemen, because I just love O-line play. But D-line play specifically, man, I've seen so many players. Last year, I'm going to go back to this and then we're going to close up shop. Last year, I was at a local high school practice doing some preseason work before covering local football where I live. And they wanted me to go. I kind of gravitated towards watching the board drills. I love them. Then it turned into pass rush drills, and I love that too. One-on-one, mano-a-mano, who has the upper hand. And when you had one team's best pass rusher against another team's best tackle, it didn't take long to see who won that rep. Remember, the first 2 or 3 steps, you can tell who has the upper hand and who is the most likely to win that rep. Not saying this young man's name, but just signed to play football at a D3 school. He won a rep over and over and over and over again in rep after rep after rep after rep. One thing I saw from him was a pad level low. He had the leverage. He had the hand placement, and he kept his feet moving. Now, this is not all the same things that Patricia talked about in his presser. I'm going a little bit deeper into it on purpose, but the sense is the same. You got to feel for what you need to do as a football player. And this young man, over and over and over, won his reps. Pad level was at the right depth. It wasn't too high. He was the low man every time. His hand placement was correct. Placement before the pop. His placement was correct. He had that pop. He kept driving his legs. He kept that leverage. And it was time to make a move, a pass rush move. He pulled one out of his bag, and he won that thing over and over and over again. And I love stuff like that. There are a lot of talented guys at Ohio State that are hyped up like Mylan Graham, that are hyped up like Tavien St. Clair, and they're trying to battle to be in the rotation at D tackle. So what they got to do, have the right hand placement, have the right pad level. They keep getting better every day. While Graham and St. Clair are getting better every day, McDonald and Houston and Malone and Moore and the others are all getting better today, every single day as well. I look forward to watching these youngsters. Talk a little bit about the youth movement, during yesterday's show. The Everydayers got to catch that out. Got a message on Twitter, not saying the young lady's name, but had a question. Wanted a show topic, and let's keep the youth movement moving on a Tuesday. There's a lot of good talent, a lot of young talent at Ohio State, and you might see a lot of that talent, maybe more than you expect, play in the fall wearing that scarlet and gray. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. And for your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as your favorite collegiate players. Get ready for the next level. Get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft and Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. It's Locked On Buckeyes right here on a Tuesday. We'll see you next time.